New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Science of Mind and Spirit Conversations on a Saturday morning. I'm Rev Michael Mangus. I'm one of the assistant ministers here at your New Thought Media Network. And I greet you this morning as we study out of the most influential book in my life, and that is The Science of Mind. And today we are taking a look at Chapter 8, The Power of Thought. Chapter 8, The Power of Thought. And if you would like to study along with me here, get out your Science of Mind textbooks and go to page 137. 137. That's where we will be starting here. Well, good morning, Wayne. He is greeting us today all the way with a hearty cowabunga. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate that today. Good morning. Good morning, my favorite people tuning in from Fort Morgan, Colorado. Yes, a little after 9 there. Here's my boss at Summit Center for Spiritual Living. That is Diana Mangus checking in today. Hello, Michael. Well, good morning to you also. And I think I can heal. Well, I'd like you to rephrase that, Wayne, if you want to heal. I know I can heal. And we'll be studying more about that today during our time together as we take a look at Chapter 8, The Power of Thought. I like reading a lot of Ernest Holmes here, so forgive me if I do a lot of reading today, but I think that the words of Holmes, for me, they rewrite themselves. I can read them over 50 times. And on the 51st reading, what happens is that, again, that I'm able to understand it a little bit more. All right, so let's go to The Power of Thought, Chapter 8. Again, it's on page 137. So the first section is called Spiritual Mind Healing. And Holmes wrote that it's taken humanity thousands of years to learn that it has the power to control its own destiny. I'll just go ahead and stop right there. So again, if you take a look at the history of humankind, again, that deity or God back 5 to 10, even 25,000 years ago, it was something, again, that influenced the crops, influenced sickness or prosperity, the gods out there. So you had to appease the gods by sacrificing animals. You had to appease the gods by following certain rules and rituals. But what I notice, especially in the Bible, of which I read every day, is that again, that through as humanity has over a period of time awoken to their own spiritual nature. In the Old Testament, they needed the Ark of the Covenant to be drawn or to be carried around to show the presence and power of God. If you notice, though, again, from the Old Testament, is that the Ark of the Covenant goes away because, again, that the kingdom of heaven becomes a part of each and every person. They become the Ark of the Covenant. So it's taken a while here. But again, the individuals are waking up, especially with New Thought. Again, we're going on 170 some years now of teaching this wonderful philosophy, 170 some years now, if you go ahead and you count Quimby. Talking about spiritual mind healing, Holmes wrote this. He says, unless we discredit all human testimony, we are forced to the conclusion that bodily healing of all manners of sickness by mental and spiritual nature is a fact. It is. And physicians of highest repute are betaking themselves to a serious study of mental phenomena and mental processes. Can we say placebo effect? The mind has a tremendous amount of power. And what we saw back in the 1800s with Phineas Parker Quimby and Mary Baker Eddy and all the greats back then, Emma Curtis Hopkins, is that this is all that they had as far as with healing. The medical profession at that time was not as sophisticated as it is now. However, what they found out was that using mind alone, that you could heal. Using mind alone. Not a bunch of fancy doctors, but using mind alone. Going back to the text, it says, they are realizing the incredible possibilities of dominion resident in the dynamic forces of the mental realm. A belief in and an acceptance of mental healing has arrived in the most orthodox of mental circles and also medical circles, and is being increasingly approved as a legitimate and useful healing aid. Take a look at all the complementary medicine branches, offices, in regular hospitals. I know I'm speaking to you here from Akron, Ohio, and up north, there's Cleveland Clinic. They have a vast department of complementary medicine. So this is meant to be complementary here. As New Thought metaphysicians, we don't tell people not to go to the doctors, but we also say there is a component that's underlying this. There is a cause here. And so we need to get to the cause to bring forth another effect. The basis for spiritual healing, and this is on page 138, starting at the second paragraph there. And in the Science of Mind text, notice that if you, in some forms, they have like the numbering, almost like, like Bible verses. Well, how they number in the Science of Mind text is part of the paragraph above. That's labeled number 1, and then all the other sections then are labeled accordingly after that. So this is on 138 too. Much in this field is as obscure and imperfectly understood, for the scientific study of mind is still in its infancy. Can I get an amen from someone? But the fact that a misuse of mental and spiritual laws is at the root of many unhappy conditions incident to the physical life stands out clear and sharp. I like this next paragraph. It says, the first fundamental principle to the understanding of the operation of thought is that we are surrounded by an infinite intelligence. So just imagine that. We are surrounded by this infinite intelligence. You are surrounded by this infinite intelligence. I am surrounded by this infinite intelligence. The possibility of healing physical disease, Holmes wrote, changing environments, attracting friends, and demonstrating supply through the power of right thinking rests entirely upon the theory that we are surrounded by an infinite mind which reacts to our thought according to law. All right, old-fashioned prayer, what we did is we prayed to the great white throne somewhere out there using the cosmic telephone line, not realizing that the kingdom of heaven is within us. So by realizing that and recognizing that, we don't pray to something in the science of mind and spirit or new thought. We don't pray out of ourselves, but we go within, we turn within. That is the secret place of the Most High. And again, that was taught for many, many, many years in all the secret societies and schools. The kingdom of heaven is within us. We are divine whether we like it or not. Whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, is that our thought is creative. In the beginning was the Word. Now, that familiar passage from the Gospel of John, some have interpreted that as saying, in the beginning was Jesus. No, in the beginning of any creative process, there is a thought. There is a thought. And we, being divine, of that divine nature, is that we replicate that in our lives. Again, going back to the text, it says, it is the cause of everything that has been, and that out of which must unfold everything that is to be. Our own intelligence is one of its activities and is of like nature to it. So our own intelligence, again, it's not God in us, it's God as us. God expressing in and through and as us. So what brought me into the science of mind was this. I used to blame everybody else outside of myself for all of my issues and problems. My parents, the place I was born, other people. And what I didn't recognize when I pointed out there was that there's three fingers that were pointing back at me. Once I recognized and realized that the thought that I was the creator of my life. Unfortunately, what had happened up until that point was that, again, I blamed everybody else. And then I recognized, again, that creative power, that creative nature within me. So as I changed my thought, which means that I aligned my thought with the divine, not through a bunch of affirmations. The affirmations already affirm who I am. So aligning myself with divine thought, what happens is that, again, that I create now deliberately through the power of thought. Let's just take a break here. Let's see who's commenting today. All right. Wayne saying hydrate. I'll show you my bottle. All right. Really good. All right. So let's go back to the text here. The activity of the one mind. And this is on 139.4. 139.4. It says this. It says, we are living in an intelligent universe which responds to our mental states because we are divine. Whether you like it or not, you are divine as you. You are God expressing as you. We are living in an intelligent universe which responds to our mental states to the extent that we learn how to control these mental states, we shall automatically control our environment. This is why we are studying the power of thought as we approach the subject of spiritual mind healing. This is what is meant by the practical application of this science to the problems of everyday living. The result of this mental work is what we call demonstration. So it's learning that we have within us the power and the presence again to change our lives. The challenge before we came into New Thought was that again, that we thought that everything else was outside of ourselves. But the whole idea of again, of saying, okay, that's what happened up until this point. And so now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to again to change my thinking, align my thought with the divine thought, the God that I am, and also to change the misconceptions, the past programming. And that's what gets us into problems is again, all the stuff that we were taught by mom and dad, all the stuff we were taught by our aunts and uncles, our teachers, society. So by taking deliberate control, and hopefully that we'll see that in the text here in a few moments, by taking deliberate control of our thinking and planting new seed into this great law of life, which is impersonal. It's impersonal. It is the great soil of the universe. So by planting new causes, we get new effects. On 143, it says here, it is done unto us. What a marvelous thought to bear in mind that it is done unto us. We need not coerce. We do not need to create the power, but we must let the great power flow through us. Again, going on here, this mind is acted upon by our thought. And in this way, thought becomes the law of our lives. I'll say it again because Holmes went ahead and italicized it. So anything in the Science of Mind text, which is either in all caps or it's italicized, pay attention. That is Holmes getting out his highlighter and says, pay attention, student. So again, this mind is acted upon by our thought, and in this way, thought becomes the law of our lives. It is just as much of a law in our individual lives as God's thought is in the larger life of the universe. We do not create. We use the power of the one mind which creates for us. And I'll say it again. We do not create. We use the power of the one mind which creates for all of us. So I hear students say, well, we're co-creators. Well, that was not the opinion of Judge Thomas Troward. and also not the opinion of Ernest Holmes. We are distributors of that one power. It's just that, again, it flows in us, as us, and through us, so that we can, again, by the power of deliberate thinking, what we can do is we can change our lives, not only our lives, but also the lives of the individuals around us. Again, from the text, it says, our beliefs and our deep-seated convictions inevitably outpicture and reflect themselves in our experience and environment, both in the physical condition of the body and in the larger world of our affairs. What we outwardly are, what is going on outside of ourselves, what is going on in this 3D world, and what we are to become depends upon what we are thinking. And again, a lot of the thinking is subconscious. For this is the way that we are using the creative power. It's almost like an automatic program in your computer. It just keeps running and running and running until you interrupt it. Until you say, well, no, I don't want that program. I want something different. But again, this is, if you want your life to change, and again, I say this to the people who come to our center, summitcsl.org. We have a great Sunday service, by the way. I say this to our people at our center. If you want your life to change, you must deliberately change your thought and keep it changed. And you must become an embodiment of the thought. What does that mean? That means that, again, that the thought becomes you, your identity, that you identify with this divine nature of health, of healing, of wholeness. It says here, the sooner we release our minds from the thought that we have to create, the sooner that we'll be able to work in line with spirit. Always man uses, he never creates anything. Okay? So again, you don't create it. Again, it's the infinite law that's in and around you. That's what does the creating. However, for it to create, it has to have a program to do that. It has to have a cause. So, again, if your life is not like you want it to be, again, to deliberately change the thought. And I want to encourage those of you whose life is wonderful. You're happy. Guess what? You can be happier. You can have more money. You can experience radiant health. You can experience all kinds of wonderful activity in your life. But again, it's expanding upon what you have, being grateful for what you have, and then again, expanding on that through the power of thought. Life, the law of life is a law of thought, an activity of consciousness, the power that flows through us. Spirit can only do for us what it can do through us. Can we understand that? It only does to us as it can do through us, unless we're able to provide the consciousness or the sum total of thoughts and feelings. It cannot make the gift. So again, that's the reason why we study. That's the reason why we get a God perspective and have, again, through the reading, understand that we live in an abundant universe, that at the core of our being is perfection, that we were meant to be expressions of love, life, light, peace, power, beauty, and joy, as written about by Thomas Troward. So I am on right now page 141. If you go to the third section, 141.3, and if you have questions, please put them in the comments. Let me see who is commenting right now. All right. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat. I would love to answer it here or attempt to answer it. So Holmes is talking about thought force, and he says that thought force is a movement of consciousness in a field of mechanical but intelligent law. Again, we're dealing with an impersonal force. We're dealing with something that, again, that uh, is, you could call it the soil of the universe. When you plant a seed into the soil, it doesn't care what you plant, but whatever is planted again comes up. So that's the reason why we spend time daily about thinking about what we want rather than what we don't want. And again, and as I have said at my center and also here online, is that for God's sakes, quit talking about what you don't want. Florence Scovel Shinn had a friend who came up to her and says, let's have an old-fashioned conversation about really all the problems and difficulties in their lives. And Mrs. Shinn said, no, let's have a new-fashioned conversation. Let's talk about what we want. Let's talk about the things that are coming into our lives. So, and again, going back to the paragraph here, it says, the movement of consciousness upon itself creates a motion or vibration upon substance, the force of which is equal to the embodiment of the thought set in motion. So some thoughts are, all thought is creative, but some thoughts are more creative than others. Again, when we go ahead and we give it emotion, feeling, and we give it, what happens is that we go ahead and we give it fuel. So the same thing goes with our negative thinking, is that we give it the same fuel here. For everything that happens in the objective world, there must be something in the in the subjective world which perfectly balances it. So again, this is not about blame here. I've heard some metaphysicians go, well, what's in your consciousness that you're experiencing that? That is metaphysical malpractice, in my opinion. What works better is to see the individual free, is to ask the individual, how can you pray for them? How can you do treatment for them? How can you support them rather than blame them? Because a lot of this stuff that shows up in our lives, again, is based upon past programming. So we're given the opportunity in this lifetime to change it here. So first, again, from Thought Force, it says first is intelligence, then the word, you speak the word, you say the word, the idea, the image, the concept, and then the movement toward the thing, the thinker, the thought, the law, the thing. The thinker, the thought, the law, the thing. Thought is an actual working power. It's an actual working power. Otherwise, there'd be nothing by which the universe could be governed. And again, most of the inner processes, this is in the section called Atmosphere of Our Thinking, most of the inner processes of our thought have been unconscious. But, and again, Holmes goes ahead and italicizes this, but when we understand the law, when we understand our own divinity, when we understand it is God as us, we learn to consciously embody what we wish and think of this only. And then we are drawn silently towards it. So my question is, are you spending some time each and every day? Preferably 2 or 3 times a day. thinking about what you want. And again, how you manifest is by accepting the gift, knowing it's already done, and by adopting the feelings that you already have it. And that's from Neville Goddard. I like this from Inducing Thought, which is on page 142, 142.4 for all of my Science of Mind students. And I like this really a lot. It says, that which thought has done, thought can undo. Isn't that great? What thought has done, thought can undo. Lifelong habits of wrong thinking can be consciously and deliberately neutralized. And an entirely new order of mental and emotional reaction is established in mind. It's not what has happened in the past. You can live in the past if you want, by your thought. What has happened in the past is the past. However, we can update our thought. We can say, okay, up until now, that's happened. But now I'm deliberately coming from my divine nature. I'm using the presence and power of the universe to create. And now this is my reality. On Inducing Thought, it says, since we must all begin right where we're at, most of us are compelled to begin our healing work with a mechanical process by using other people's treatments, by using Dr. Holmes's treatments, by using a variety of affirmations and denials. But again, it says this from Inducing Thought. Consciousness in this sense means an inner embodiment of ideas. So if one wishes to demonstrate prosperity, you must embody prosperity or prosperity thoughts, which are, some of them, the Father and I are one, or the Father, Mother, and I are one. And that all that the universe has is mine now. That this is an abundant universe. Therefore, I am abundant. I am prosperous. I am healthy. I am whole. I am well. The I am of us. That's God as you. In Choosing Thought, which is on page 143, it says, we cannot live a choiceless life. Every day, every moment, every second, there's a choice. If it were not so, we would not be individuals. We have the right to choose what we experience. Again, that's from the Science of Mind textbook. We have a right to choose, it's also in that same section, what we shall induce into that mind. The way in which our thoughts are to become manifest, we can't always see. Can we understand that? The law takes our seed thought and creates. And one of the interesting observations that I make, not only on myself, but other people, is that, again, that we wonder how it's to be done. How it's to be done is none of our business. That is the creative powers business. Now, if we get a thought, if we get an idea, if something comes up within us easily and effortlessly, that we are to act upon that thought. We are to, if it says, go down and see Mary at the bakery. And that's a strong feeling. Go do it. Go do it. You have no idea how it's to be manifest. The way in which our thoughts are to become manifest, we cannot always see or Should we be disturbed that we do not see the way because the effect is potential in its cause? The Alpha, I am the Alpha and Omega. And all that comes between cause and effect. Cause and effect are really one from the textbook. It's one in the same. And if we have a given cause set in motion from the textbook, the effect will have to equal the cause. So if we're experiencing causes that we do not like, the answer is not to keep focusing on this, on the causes. Put a new effect, put a new cause in motion. Put a new cause in motion. One is in the inside and the other, the outside of the same thing. The universe is a projector. It projects our inner thoughts into our world. So what do you have in your projector? The good news is that you can change that slide, but you must do it deliberately. It says a certain and specific idea in mind will produce a certain and specific concrete manifestation that's equal to itself. Let's see if we have any questions here. All right. Diana has a question. It says, do you have suggestions to help you believe that your thoughts are affirmations that you're trying to embody? Absolutely. We must believe that it will happen. If we are experiencing any type of sickness or dis-ease, we must have a reason to be well. We must know that we are going to be well. We must have a reason to be well. So embodiment is done by deliberately thinking, again, by putting down into a notebook or on a piece of paper an affirmation, or to do spiritual mind treatment, if you know how to do that, on a regular basis, 2 or 3 times a day. That's how you embody. And again, don't talk about your sickness, your dis-ease, your lack of money. You only talk about those kind of issues with your practitioner or with someone, again, who is going to know the truth for you. Diana goes, thinking of 4 or 5 words such as I believe, claim, declare, and embody. Absolutely. That's what happens. Roy Chavez is here. Hi, Roy. Good to have you with us. Letting go of the lower self-esteem here. I am divine. Absolutely. And again, I've had friends of mine saying, well, I have low self-esteem. Well, quit doing that. Quit doing that. If you start thinking about what you want in your life and not what you don't want, give yourself self-esteem. Know that, again, that you're wonderful, you're strong, you're brave. Give yourself all of the things that you wanted in the past. Give it to yourself now. Now is the appointed time. Today is a day of salvation. The point of power is always in the present moment. Let's understand that. Wayne says, strength, purity, and peace of heart. How do I foster that? Know that it's already within you. It's already there. So you claim it. You claim, I am strength. I have purity. I have peace of heart. And again, when the noise starts coming up, is to start forgiving yourself. I forgive myself for having this. Because at the center of your being, Wayne, is perfection. At the center of your being is strength, is purity, is peace of mind and heart. It's already there. So again, to bring that forth, that's why you use affirmations. And again, the affirmations affirm what's already there within you. So the power within, it says God's creative power of mind is right here. This is on Power Within, which is on page 146. God's creative power of mind is right here. We have as much of this power to use as we believe in and embody. Yes, the storehouse of nature is filled with this infinite good, awaiting the touch of our awakened thought to spring forth into manifestation into our lives. But the awakening must be in our thought, as I pound on my desk. The awakening must be in our thought. And again, the words that we speak is the law of our lives, and nothing hinders its operation but who? But ourselves. We only need to know, but we also must know constructively. Could we just comprehend, again from the Science of Mind textbook under The Power Within, could we just comprehend the fact that there is a power that makes things directly out of itself? So the science of mind is panentheistic, not pantheistic. So pantheistic is, again, that God becomes the creation. But in panentheism, again, that God becomes the creation without being used up in the creation. And there's also again, a transcendent being that's always there. So we are panentheistic. We set our own limitations. Another section, it says, there is but one way, and that way is certain as the sunshine. Daily, daily we must control all the thoughts that deny the real and affirm the divine presence within us. Then as the mist disappears before the sun, so shall adversity melt before the shining radiance of our exalted thought. There then is no limitation outside of our own ignorance, Ernest Holmes wrote. And since we all can conceive of a greater good than we've already so far have experienced, we have, you have, I have the ability to transcend previous experience and to rise triumphantly above them. But we shall never, and again, Holmes has this italicized, we shall never triumph over them while we persist in going through the old mental reactions. So, think about what you want instead of what you don't want. So in the final section here, it says, thought is creative, and upon this basis, our entire superstructure reigns. Since spirit creates by contemplation, pure mental action, then everything in the manifest world is some effect of its thought. Our own minds are an expression of the divine mind and must be of its same essence. So again, we were made in the image and likeness of our Creator. Again, it is God expressing as us. And this is very important in the section called Understanding, which is the last section of this chapter. It says that we find ourselves in an undesirable condition in the face of all of this is merely proof that we are limiting ourselves by our very freedom. Shall we not then reverse our thinking and take for our starting point the inherent nature of our mental powers? So I'll conclude our time here with the last paragraph. It says, we should strive towards a perfect vision, a perfect conception. We should expand our thought until it realizes all good and then cut right through all that appears to be and use this almighty power for definite purposes. We should feel a deeper union with life daily, a greater sense of that indwelling God, of the God of the seen and the unseen that's within us. When we speak into this mind, we have sown the seed of thought into the absolute, and we can rest in peace. We need not make haste, for it is done unto us as we believe. In that day that they call upon me, I will answer. So I encourage you to read over that chapter 8, the power of thought, and realize again that you are powerful, that you can change. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. The past does not have to be your present or future. You can change it again because of your divine nature. All right? All right. Well, I am over time. So I just want to say thank you for being here. I bless you in the name of Spirit. I know that this has really helped you today. And again, please join us next week for Chapter 9 of the Science of Mind. I'm Reverend Michael Mangus. I am going to wish you now a very pleasant Saturday and a very pleasant week.